We are preparing a one-day manipulations event in Zurich with Olya, Khalili, Manusher, Barbara. They are preparing.
Der ist ein bisschen stark. Wenn du so Früchte nimmst, das ist stark für den Hals.
Do we have a little hole puncher?
Yeah.
Where was it?
Yes.
So, Mani, are you prepared for tomorrow?
Well, as much as one can be.
Okay.
But I'm hoping to be stimulated by the ideas and thoughts of the members, the participants.
Mm-hmm.
And I look forward very much to engaging with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They will all no doubt have group experience of one kind or another.
They will or not?
They will, what I'm saying,
okay.
so no doubt to share and to elaborate on their experiences.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you said something today that one day is innovative.
I said it was an innovation. I really think you may be pioneering something here that will be very exciting for the future and could form a model for introducing more people to system psychodynamic thinking, which would be great if one can do that because of the application to the business world, how important that is, and also to not just to augment people's learning potential in terms of leadership capacity, but also their emotional intelligence. And anything that can help to enhance that and bring it into line with the intellectual capacity has to be good. So yes, I think it's a very exciting venture. Really do.
Yes, because now we have 7:30 nearly, and we started at 2 o'clock or so.
2 o'clock, yeah.
So for one day with 4 staff members,
Yes,
we prepared half a day,
yes,
nearly without a break.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think working through it like this does give one a sense of not just of the totality and the kind of concept of it, but also quite nitty-gritty because we've had to go through the membership lists. That helps you get to know the members a bit, or at least the names, familiarisation. I think that's terribly helpful.
Yeah.
And knowing their functions, right? And it was very good that you asked the CEO to join, because he had all this information of the nationalities, the cultures and languages.
Yes, and he gave us also a sense of where he is and what is possible and what we can and where are the limits somehow of what is going on here.
Yes, and his values and the values of the institution, the culture. So it made, I think we were, or at least I was, perhaps, expecting it to be much more academically oriented and much less flexible than it has turned out to be in terms of what he said.
Yeah.
And then I found myself slightly, I wasn't sure whether to really believe him or not.
When he said, do what you want, be flexible.
Why did you not believe
Well, why? I don't know. It just sounded too good to be true. And I thought, this is what happens before the shit hits the fan.
Yes, also true could be.
Do you remember what our other CEO said? Go for it, I know it, go for it. And I said, okay.
No problem,
And
do it.
later
I
on-
want you to challenge the challenge, and then you got like.
We are here in a good institute with a good frame. So
Yeah.
And also what he said, that it is not the first time that they have something like group dynamics and so. So it helps.
It does help because one can be more adventurous, I think, and not so worried about causing offence.
And he said something very important, that it's not possible to have everyone to be content, to be happy.
That was important, I agree with
Yeah.
you.
So it makes me understand that there is a certain experience and dealing also with this.
Left in tears, and who then came back afterwards and said what an important learning experience it had been. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
What you said was also interesting. You said to him, you should tell them, or we should tell them, what you put in, you will take out or something.
Right, that what you get out is in proportion to what you put in. Yeah.
So it's offer, or let's say the expectations, or asking them, bring in yourself, open up, reflect, then you will get out the most of it. Right?
Yeah. So that means we're also open to the possibility that some people may not learn anything. You know, and he's open to it too. You know, that some people might go away, say, "Oh, that was no good."
It was also the funny part when you said they will get out something. Yes, what is it? Get out of the small system furiously.
Yeah.
Get out of the large system furiously, and then you said the result may be to be furious. So because it's speed, action, and results.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's.
it.
Is it a risk? Is it a risk to run this one day?
I think it is. I think it's a risk. Maybe it's because we are so familiar or used to the 14-day model, you know, where you've got a beginning and a middle and an end, and you've got the luxury of time to work through, and also to get into deeper layers. So I think the risk is about timing and depth. You know, if you go too fast and you want to go too deep in the time available, then one can undermine the educational method that one is employing. But on the other hand, you've got a day, and the learning objectives may be more modest, maybe a few concepts that they can take out from here and put it back in their organizations. Yeah.
And they've got a lot to take away, haven't they? I mean, we've blasted them with paper.
Absolutely.
They've got loads of
Yeah.
stuff there to hold on to, as it were.
Yeah.
And I suspect some of them might find it very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Those who are more secure in themselves or have some prior, you know, maybe quite experienced,
Yes.
they might find
I
it quite
think so.
exciting. It could go that way as well.
Yeah, yeah.
They have registered for it, you know, on a free basis. So that's always a huge difference. Instead of having a group of people coming from a program of a company, being sent more or less. They are much more open. They are interested in those topics. I think so.
What's interesting is that we have some experience and then data, or let's say theories and models, like small systems, and then the input by you about small system dynamics. And the large system experience first, we said,
Yes.
and then later on the input or the concepts of large group dynamics. And then we have also the bit where we want to bring them into a more self-organized setting, like a system event or intergroup event. Although in order to listen what else is going on, where they are, right, in the groups. And, so although it's very one day, but still we have to all pieces in
All
it.
the pieces are
Condensed.
sure.
Condensed.
Yes, condensed, but you know, well, we'll just have to see how it goes, and be interesting actually.
Yeah, come to our brief stuff,
Yeah.
gathering or meeting. So we are halfway through, right? We had the welcome by the sponsor and mentor, then the opening presentation by myself, then we had the plenary, the experiential plenary, as we said, and then we had the small system live and your wonderful presentation on small system dynamics, small group dynamics, and
Agree.
And we still have to talk about it more. And now we are on the breaks. And we go on with a large study group,
That's it.
45 minutes.
Yes.
Wow, okay.
And then presenting or talking about the experience again.
Yes.
I just said to Philip, he approached me, the mentor, the sponsor, and said, how is it going? I said, you know better, how is it going? Because I know that he's asking the people, you know. He said, good. And then he said, next time we have to do it 2 days. And
Did he?
Oh.
yeah,
Wow.
and we have to put it into the program.
Ah, so
Success.
happy.
Before we're even halfway through.
Wow.
But still I said, okay, let's wait.
Yes. They may not be
Wait
quite
for-
so happy.
Yeah.
After
Whether
the
they get
lunch.
down.
No, I fear not.
The reactions will sit in later.
Yeah.
Well, but maybe, you know, they're sitting in the lodge thinking about all the
Maybe
concepts.
they might be.
Yes, I think.
Yeah.
And it's,
Might help.
I have different voice, was so excited.
Yeah, Alina is.
Yeah,
Is she?
very
working. Oh, that's the,
interested.
Oh yes.
Very interested and asking me the right question also in terms, you know, sponsorship and how do you sell that to a client, which really is always very difficult if somebody hasn't done it.
Yes, quite. It's a chicken and egg thing, isn't it? I mean, how do you give them the experience unless they do it?
And they came over for 1 day from Belgium even. Okay, combined with business meetings here in Zurich, but still.
Yes.
Well, one night I heard he got up at 5 o'clock and drove over from Germany.
She worked very hard in my small group.
She's good.
Yeah, she's good. Yeah, we had a little conversation afterwards.
Yes.
So
I've
what
just
was the
had-
experience?
I've had a long conversation with her over
I
lunch.
saw you. Yes, yeah.
You know, she's very positive, very interested, very thinking
Mm.
about it.
Mm.
She's getting a lot out of it actually.
Yeah, she runs this. She's part of this American company that's all very, you know, as she described it, chuck, you know, in its training and its development, but it's very
What
quick.
they do? Oh, I see.
Yeah, so this model for her is like a very welcome.
Eye opener.
Very welcome.
I'm sure it is an eye opener for many of them. You know, I don't know the name of the man sitting in the last row.
No names.
Right.
but-
Well, yeah. Okay, so he is like having some awaken.
But he did work
There's such
hard.
thing
Oh,
as
yeah, I
that.
think
He
he's
worked very
really,
hard.
really
Very
good
large.
working. Yeah.
He asked a lot of
Large.
questions.
You can
Large,
see the
large.
face, you know, can see faces, and you can see faces who are really working hard.
Yeah. And some who are not.
As always.
One or two sitting back
Yeah.
or so
Let's
concrete they
wait
can't
and
do
see.
it.
They
Can't
can't do it.
tune in quite.
Was it okay? So 45 minutes, small
Yes.
group, right?
It was amazing how much came out of it.
Absolutely, it was
Wasn't it?
staggering
Yes,
actually.
It was staggering.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
But I did feel obliged at the end to say that you know we've structured the groups in this way because time factor, it's deliberate, but I also wanted to acknowledge how difficult it must be for them to have a one-off thing of this nature, because normally these kind of groups run on or happen regularly. So I felt it was important to acknowledge that to say that really, which I think they appreciated. It also followed a comment by one of the participants who said how important it is at work in meetings to say to the meeting, we're standing back and we're going to reflect on our meeting, rather than just run on all the time with agenda items. And so I picked that up and said, yeah, it is important. This has been a one-off, and therefore it's got its own built-in difficulties.
I just at the end of it I did close it. I closed it. I didn't just get up.
Yeah.
Yes, I had to close because you know they wouldn't understand. And anyway, it's not a group relations conference.
Did you say now the finish, or did you
Yes,
just?
I
go
said now
for
the
it?
session's at an end
Mm.
because they had talked earlier about that they thought there wouldn't be any difference between how they felt about me in the group and how they would feel if I left the room.
Mm.
So I said, well, you can test that out at 11 o'clock. See how they feel.
So there are bits of testing, of experiencing.
Yes,
A bit of flight.
yes, bit of
Mm.
A bit
life.
of flight. There was
Yes.
quite a bit in my group, and
Mm.
the person who was the leader for flight, got a bit of a aggression directed against her, and then she quietened down. And I noticed in your presentation, she only asked one or two questions, and unusually for her, because she's question after question after question.
Mm. Mm. Okay.
Well, I'm getting more impressed with the model.
Yeah.
The model
Yeah.
of today, experiential event. I mean, these are not novices. They're some of them have got quite.
That's right. Yeah.
Some of them are quite
Precisely.
sophisticated.
They are.
Yeah,
That helps a lot.
it does.
Yeah.
It does.
I mean, there are CEOs of large companies, COO of this big company, and
Mm. Mm.
But they signed up for psychodynamics in organizations.
that's right.
That's
And
important.
that's
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So later on, we will have the large system or large study group.
Mm-hmm. Then the
I'm very
presentation.
curious.
Mm, mm. Well, I'm curious too, because they've had a morning of exposure. They've learned some language, new language, and now we're going to have an
That's
opportunity to see what
Where they
what
are.
assimilation is good. Yeah.
And we set it up as a spiral.
Mm, mm.
Mm.
What's the time?
1:10.
Okay.
It's quite strenuous, because
Mm.
I'm aware of feeling quite tired, actually.
Mm, 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 mm.
Hopefully I shall pick up, but I mean, I was just thinking also about how they might feel. It's a lot of input, a lot of different inputs for them.
Mm.
And it
Quite
is emotional.
exhausting. It's very emotional.
It's emotional.
Yeah.
I really thought
Could
that was
see it.
very good what you did at the beginning of the small group, or before the small group lecture, that you asked them what their
Yeah,
experience
yeah,
was. I really
yeah.
thought it was so
Yeah.
important.
They came
Mm,
out of
mm,
it. Yeah.
Mm. Yes, and they offered very cogent, insightful
Yeah.
remarks.
Interestingly, the start, by having waited for the 3 members, and the sponsor asked we should wait a little bit, etc. So we could not start on time
Mm.
at 8:30. Still, and it was here a little bit with me first,
Yes.
because I thought he took away some time from my presentation, so I will put it on the top a little bit. And you did a little bit the same, and now it continues. So maybe we have to be aware of it and to stick also, let's say, to contain also by really
Mm.
setting the boundaries. So I realized he started, I followed, but
Yes, I
and
followed too.
you followed
Well,
too.
I think what happened was, because of the way you did the transition into the lecture, I then changed the order in which I did my.
I
So then I
see.
followed on looking at
I
8
see.
to 12 dynamics, because originally I would have gone right back to the beginning and looked at the pair, the threesome, the foursome, 5 to 7, and then come to 8 to 12,
I see.
and then gone on. That was my intention. But because of the way you did that, I thought it makes sense then to give them the theoretical input on 8 to 12 and then go back.
Yeah.
So that altered, and actually they needed more. They just needed more time.
And they didn't want it to stop. They looked at me when I said, now it's 5 past
Yes.
the boundary, time boundary. They
They
didn't really want it.
So it's yeah.
And maybe there was also a bit of a role thing in it, because you were presenting the female,
Maybe.
and I looked at the ladies and they were not so fine by stopping you and saying, no, it's okay, time boundary, etc.
The thing is, the time boundaries are quite tight.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
I know. I mean, you can never get people necessarily to start on time right at the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
It's always.
Yes, but I think in doing what you did came out the experience of today, but also the back home experience very, very
Yes,
clearly.
Yes.
And many of them, we had somebody expressing, what can I do when, what happens if.
Yes.
So they are very
Into
much,
application.
yes, they
Yeah,
are
yeah.
into application, of course they are.
Mm.
And that maybe could be a reason because it was difficult to stop. As
That's
if
right.
they
They were
wanted
in
to
this mood, yeah.
going on with this and speaking about their daily life experience.
Well, it's worth thinking about in terms of design, whether one would kind of take that into account if one were to do it again, that there needs to
Exactly.
be a little bit of application
Yeah.
after each lecture input.
A little bit more time.
A little bit more time and have a little section
Yeah.
for application, 15 minutes for application
Exactly.
in the totality.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm.
Is it also a little bit the fear of the break, maybe? Although it's not 2 weeks, it's just 1 day, but still, the break is a break, right? I mean, 1.5 hours, the longest part, by the way, of all the formats, the
Yes.
break.
Oh, you mean this the lunch break?
Yeah, the
Yes.
lunch break.
They could have done with 1 hour.
Yeah, 1
Yes.
hour.
The sponsor wanted maybe
That's their
that they want
experience.
to work
Mm.
or answer some emails. 2 did, I realized. They stayed in the room and answered the mails, but not so many. Okay, good. So we continue.
Mm. No, I feel very positive and about it and confident that the members are learning, the participants are learning a lot.
Yeah.
They're either having their prejudices confirmed, some of them, or they're learning new things, and some are not learning much at all.
Well, it's the usual,
This is
the
very-
usual distribution, isn't it?
Yeah.
Normal distribution.
Yeah.
yeah.